Hey, y'all, let's cover lesson 22, order of operations with fractions. So we're going to recall the exponential representation, a to the m, just means that's a times itself, times a, dot, 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 times a. You're going to do it times itself m times. Okay, so if we have 2 to the 4th, that would just be 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, which is 2 times itself 4 times. All right, so 2 times 2 would be 4, 4 times 2 would be 8, 8 times 2 is 16, just to finish that out. So if we have negative 3/4 squared, that means negative 3/4 times itself twice, which is negative 3/4 times negative 3/4. All right. We could also do parentheses since it's negatives just to make it prettier. The main thing is we need to look at the sign first is the first thing I do. Negative times a negative, the signs are the same, so it becomes positive. But I don't need to worry about that. When you multiply, you remember, always multiply straight across. So 3 times 3 is 9, and 4 times 4 is 16. And that is our answer. 2/5 multiply times itself 3 times, which is 2/5 times 2/5 times 2/5. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. 5 times 5 is 25. 25 times 5 is 125. And that is your answer. All right, recall order of operations. I'm going to go back to that again. When evaluating expressions, proceed in the following order. You're going to always do the items containing parentheses first, parentheses. So that could be brackets, parentheses, or those curly brackets. Or absolute value. If grouping symbols are nested, so that means they're inside of each other, you're going to evaluate the expression in the innermost pair of grouping symbols first. The innermost first. You start with the inner parentheses and then work your way out. Then you're going to evaluate all exponents as they appear in the expression. Perform all multiplication and division in the order that they appear in the expression, moving from left to right. Always, always. Perform all addition and subtraction in the order they appear in the expression, moving from, again, left to right. All right. Simplify. Okay, so we've got negative 1/2. How do I want to do this? I'll go negative 1/2 plus, all right, this is 1/4 times, I'm glad I'm writing this, 1/4 times negative 1/3. So when we multiply, remember you multiply straight across, so 1 times 1. So I'm just going to bring down this negative 1/2. I'm not doing anything with that yet. So positive times a negative is going to give me a negative. Let's start with the signs. 1 times 1 is 1. That's my numerator. 4 times 3 is 12. All right. The signs are the same, so I'm going to add them and keep the sign, but the problem is they do not have the same denominator. So we can't add or subtract unless they have the same exact denominator. So the same denominator would be what? Well, it would be 12. So I'm going to flip these around the way I would normally write them. Negative 1/12. And then it's plus, actually, minus 1/12. And I'm going to have my equal signs and my final one. All right. 12 is definitely my denominator because 2 goes into 12 and 12 goes into 12. So 12 is my denominator. The next step. There's nothing that's changed from this one since 12 times 1 is 12. So this is just going to stay as negative 1/12. Up here, 2 times 6 gives me 12. So -1 times 6 is -6. We're adding them and keeping the sign, so it's going to be a negative. 6 plus 1 is 7, and that is my answer. All right, simplify. I've got some more space here. Well, we don't have any parentheses to deal with. We do have exponents to deal with. So I'm just going to keep the 2 out to the side, and I've got -1/2 times -1/2. I'm going to do that first. And then I can bring that. So 2 times negative times a negative is a positive. So that's going to be gone. 1 times 1 is 1. 2 times 2 is 4. All right, now I've got this 4. This is plus 4 times, so this is 4/1 times -1/2. Positive times a negative is a negative. 4 times 1 is 4. Over 1 times 2 is 2. All right, we need to multiply this 2 and 1/4. 2 times 1 is 2. Over 4 minus 4 over 2. Okay, now that I'm just to the addition and subtraction part, I'm going to rewrite this with 2/4 minus 4/2. Our common denominator between 4 and 2 is going to be 4. And so all of them are 4. I'm going to keep the sign for this one. So this is the exact same. 2/4 is 2/4. 2 times 2 is 4. So -4 times 2 is -8. All right, the signs are different, so we have to subtract and take the sign of the larger number. So 8 minus 2 is 6, and we're going to need that negative sign. The last thing I need to do here is reduce. I know that 2 goes into both of these. And so if I divide both of these by 2, I get -6 divided by 2 is 3. 4 divided by 2 is 2. And that is my answer. Okay. The only reason you would need to change it to a mixed number is if it requests you to do so. Okay. Just went outside and moved my car. It's crazy stuff coming down. All right. We're going to give an A is -3/4. Let's see if I can do it without this. They're not really working. B is 1/2 and C is 1/3. And D is -1/4. We're going to evaluate the expression AB minus CD. All we're going to do is substitute each of the variables for the numbers. So we've got A, which is -3/4, times B, which is 1/2, minus C, which is 1/3, times D, which is -1/4. So we need to multiply these two first. Remember, multiply straight across. -3 times 1 is -3. 4 times 2 is 8. Minus 1 times 1, well, it's negative. 1 times -1 is -1. 3 times 4 is 12. Let's just change these signs out and make them pretty. -3/8. Negative times a negative is a positive. 1/12. All right, now we're to the adding and subtracting. -3/8 and 1/12. I need to see who my common denominator is going to be. Let's break these down. 8 is made up of 4 and 2, which is 2 and 2. 12 is 6 and 2, and 3 and 2. So 8 has 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And 12 has 2, 2, and 3. So what are we going to use here? We need 2, 2, and then 2 and 3. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. And then 8 times 3 is 24. That's one of the ways you can do it. The other way is to multiply it out, because 8's multiples are 8, 16, 24, 8 times 4 is 32, and then 12 is 12, 24, and that's it as well. So whichever one you like better, this is probably going to be your one you prefer as opposed to those. So 24 is your denominator. There's so many ways to do math. This one's going to have a negative sign. All right, 12 times 2 is 24. 1 times 2 is 2. 8 times 3 is 24. And negative 3 times 3 is negative 9. The signs are different, so we're going to subtract and take the sign of the larger number. So negative 7/24 is our answer. It cannot be reduced. Negative 1/4 is A, 1/2 is B, and we're going to evaluate. We're just going to plug in our numbers here. So A squared, which is negative 1/4 squared, minus B squared, which is 1/2 squared, divided by A plus B, negative 1/4 plus 1/2. Okay, we're going to exponents first, which is negative 1/4 times negative 1/4 minus 1/2 times 1/2. All that's over negative 1/4 plus 1/2. Negative times a negative is a positive. 1 times 1 is 1. 4 times 4 is 16. Minus 1 times 1 is 1. 2 times 2 is 4. And all of that's over negative 1/4 plus 1/2. All right. In the numerator, I'm going to turn these like this. 1/16 minus 1/4. Plenty of practice on this one. Common denominator is going to be, well, we've got 16 and we've got 4. 4 turns out to 4, 8, 12, 16. Well, 16 is going to be our common denominator. So this stays as 1. 4 times 4 is 16. Negative 1 times 4 is negative 4. The signs are different, so we're going to subtract and keep the sign of the larger number. 1 minus 4 is negative 3. And so that's the numerator. We've got negative 3 over 16 divided by, we need to figure out this piece, which is negative 1/4 plus 1/2. 4 is our common denominator. So this stays negative 1/4. 2 times 2 is 4. 1 times 2 is 2. Negative 1 plus 2 is 1. Signs are different, so you subtract and take the sign of the larger number. And that's negative 3/16 divided by 1/4. I'm going to write this a little differently. I'm going to write it negative 3/16 divided by 1/4. So we can see the keep, the switch, and the flip. You keep the negative 3/16, you change division to multiplication, and then you flip the 1/4 to 4/1. Before I multiply straight across, I want to reduce these because I know that 4 and 16 will both reduce, because this is the same thing as negative 3 times 4 over 16. And the 4 and the 16 will reduce by 4. 4 will reduce to 1, because 4 divided by 4 is 1. 16 divided by 4 is 4. So this becomes negative 3/4 for the final. That one did a lot. My goodness, that's a great one. Should do that on the test. The next one, negative 1/2 plus 1/3. And 3/4 minus 3/2. Well, there's nothing we can do here but start lining these suckers up. So negative 1/2 plus 1/3. I'm going to do that one first. 2 and 3. Ooh, let's see. 2 and 3. 2 is 2, 4, 6, 8. 3 is 3, 6. Oh, there it is right there. 6 is our common denominator. 2 times 3 is 6. Negative 1 times 3 is negative 3. 3 times 2 is 6. 1 times 2 is 2. The signs are different, so we subtract and take the sign of the larger number. And then that's going to be divided by, we'll take 3/4 minus 3/2. The common denominator is going to be 4. So this stays as 3/4. 2 times 2 is 4. So -3 times 2 is -6. The signs are the same. So we're going to subtract them and take the sign of the larger number. Now what we have now is -1/6 divided by -3/4. I'm going to write it like this since we're going to have to do the KSF, divided by -3/4. Keep, switch, flip. Keep the -1/6, switch from division to multiplication, and flip, do not remove the sign, flip to -4/3. The signs are the same, so it becomes positive. Negative times negative is a positive. When you multiply straight across, we get 1 times 4, which is 4, but we also get 6 times 3. I could go ahead and multiply that. In fact, let's just do it. I get 4/18. Those are both even, so they're both reducible by 2. So I'm going to divide both of these by 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 18 divided by 2 is 9. There's our answer. All right, last piece of it. Hold on just a second. I want to go back and say something real quick. For this one, what we do first is you simplify the numerator or simplify the top. It's just the tools on this. So you want to simplify the top. You want to simplify the bottom, the denominator, and then divide. Okay. You want to get your numerator just to one term. You want your denominator to just be, oh, so here, one term. Then you can divide it. You do not want to have more than one term to deal with. It won't work. All right. Especially if they're, well, only if they're adding and subtracting. So let's simplify the top. In fact, pause the video, attempt this one on your own, and then come back and see how you did on it. So I'm going to take the -2/3 plus 1/5. I'm going to simplify the top. The common denominator is going to be what? Well, 3 is made up of 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, and 5 is made up of 5, 10, 15. So 15 is our denominator. 3 times 5 is 15. -2 times 5 is -10. 5 times 3 is 15. 1 times 3 is 3. The signs are different, so we're going to subtract them and take the sign of the larger number. -7/15. Let's simplify the denominator now. 4/5 minus 1/2. 5 and 2. The only thing they have in common is 10. That's the lowest. That's in common. It's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and then 5 is just 5 and 10. 5 times 2 is 10. 4 times 2 is 8. 2 times 5 is 10. So -1 times 5 is -5. The signs are different. We're going to subtract and take the sign of the larger number, so 3/10. Finally, we have -7/15 divided by 3/10. Be very careful in skipping steps. Usually when people do, they make mistakes. We're going to keep, switch, flip. -7/15 stays the same. Switch from division to multiplication. Excuse me. And then flip 3/10 to 10/3. I want to reduce this before I multiply because I know both 5 and 10, I'm sorry, 10 and 15, 5 will go into both of them. 5 goes into 15, so I'm going to divide this by 5. It becomes 3. And then 10 divided by 5 is 2. So this becomes, let's come over here, -7/3 times 2/3. Multiplying straight across. 7 times 2 is 14. Negative times a positive is a negative. 3 times 3 is 9. Let me pause the video for just a moment. Oh, nope, I don't need to. I'm looking at the wrong one. I'm like, oh, that's way wrong. This is the answer. Good stuff. All right. Let's talk a little bit of geometry. We're adding another figure. A trapezoid is a quadrilateral, which means it has 4 sides. And it has one pair of parallel opposite sides. So this is parallel to this. That means they'll never touch. The pair of parallel sides are called the bases, all right, of the trapezoid. Their lengths are marked by the variables B1, so that's base 1, and base 2 in the figure below. The distance between the parallel bases is called the height or the altitude of the trapezoid. So usually you'll see it with just like a dotted line that goes in between here to let you know what the height is. It will not usually be on the outside like this. And it's just to where it creates a right angle. It's the distance from base 1 to base 2. The height is marked by the variable h in the figure below, and then I represented it differently. A trapezoid with bases B1 and B2 and a height of h has an area. So the area is equal to now they're doing it differently than I would do it. They are saying 1/2 times height times base 1 times plus base 2. Let's just do that. 1/2 times the height times base 1 plus base 2. All right. So if area, we're going to find the area of a trapezoid, is equal to 1/2 times height times base 1 plus base 2. What are we going to do first? Well, I'm going to substitute the numbers first. Area is equal to 1/2 times the height is 3 times base 1 is 4 1/4 plus base 2, which is 2 1/2. This is area, so remember it's going to be square inches for our answer. The first thing we're going to want to do is put this 3 over 1 so that we know that when we multiply, we get what we need on that. But first we need to go around the world for each of these. 4 times 4 is 16, and 16 plus 1 is 17 over 4. Bring these down. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 plus 1 is 5 over 2. All right, we need to add these two. Need some scratch paper maybe. Didn't really leave myself a lot of room. So I want to go 17 over 4 plus 5 divided by 2. Common denominator is going to be 4. And so this stays as 17. 2 times 2 is 4. So 5 times 2 is 10. These are all positive. 17 plus 10 is 27. Okay, so 2704 is going to go inside where the parenthesis was. So this is 1/2 times 3 over 1 times 27 over 4. Okay. Last thing here is multiplying straight across. 1 times 3 is 3. 3 times 27 is 81. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times 4 is 8. So 81 divided by 8. However, everything has been working with, you've been using mixed numbers here. So we need to change this to a mixed number. 8 goes into 81 how many times? Well, 8 goes into 8 once. So that's gone. And then 8 goes into 1 0 times. So that becomes 80. And we're left with a 1. So that's 10 1/8. Finally, the area is 10 1/8 inches squared. You could also write square inches. It is totally your call. Okay. All right. Anything else on this? That's it. All right. That is it for this lecture, number 22, and I'll see y'all in 23. Let me know what questions you have.